This is an open letter to Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Hello, sir. How are you? Hope everything is fine. Salute. Here's the thing, sir. Um, I like you as a man of knowledge and as a person, a very entertaining person. So I like you in that sense. So this is nothing. It's not a personal thing. Here's the thing about your reaction to Mr. Trans Howard recently. This is with regards to that. You had a not such a nice reaction to Mr. Trans Howard uh, ideas, and you found a fault or two or three, or basically the whole thing is fault. You found it, and you press on it and say, no, 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 this is should be totally disregarded because he didn't calculate this math problem correctly, so the whole thing has to be discarded. Sir, that you're not doing a service in that sense to the public by totally uh, disregarding what he has to say. Absolutely, totally. It's like this is what I got, the gist that I got. And why do I say this? Because I listened to parts of his interviews with different people, and I think he's onto something. Uh, the thing is, if for nothing else, for bringing up, introducing, whether this the periodic table that he has introduced to us as the members of public, the periodic table that he has introduced to us, whether it's his work or somebody else's work that he's doing the job of introducing, great, beautiful idea. You know why, sir? Because the periodic table, which people in the East recognize as Mendeleev table of elements, because the guy was Russian who came up with such a table. When I was first introduced to this periodic table, I was like, okay, what are we waiting for? What that space in the middle are we planning to fill with? Is that space, that empty space in the middle, are we waiting for those elements or what? Because periodic table looks like the way it was designed, looks like it's a bowl of soup, and an empty bowl of soup. We have 6, 7 rows here, one on top of each other, and then comes down to 2 rows, and then goes back up to 5, 6 rows of elements. Hydrogen here and helium there, and then suddenly, you have these very reactive metals, 6 layers, 7 layers, on the very first 2 columns on each side, and then comes down, reach. It's so badly designed, this periodic table. It's so badly designed that they had actually had to remove a piece of the table and put it under it and bring. It's like these tables that you know they're small, then you pull it apart and you put a piece in piece in the middle to make your table bigger, something like that, but even worse looking. So the real periodic table is the periodic table that is that that is designed. This periodic table is designed by chemists. It wasn't designed by a designer. A real periodic table would make some kind of a sense, not this empty bowl of soup, this shape. Because here's the thing, Mr. Tyson. A lot of us, uh, learn a little visually. In that sense, we depend somewhat on our visual senses. So what happens is that, as such, I still have that, perplexed in my mind, that what are we waiting for what it has to fit within that empty bowl of soup. There is no soup. Hydrogen, helium, and then comes down. so badly designed that you have to take a piece of it, the heavy elements, cut it, and put it under the bowl of soup. So you have the bowl of soup, and then you have the saucer under the bowl of soup. The first time I see this table of elements that Mr. Trent Howard had introduced, the first time I saw it, I was like, beautiful. It just is. If for nothing else, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, if for nothing else, just for this, introducing us to this periodic table, which hopefully would be adapted by schools around the world, he's done humanity a great service, and you would do humanity a great service if you push for this. This periodic table that, I don't know if it's his work or somebody else's work, but still he should get a lot of credit for introducing us to this periodic table that so beautifully starts with hydrogen and helium and expands, and it's half circle every time with some kind of a mathematical order as it grows. It's beautiful. You can expect people to memorize this periodic table. I did my best. I was never able to really memorize the periodic table because it's just shit. The design is shit. Absolute nonsense. An empty bowl of soup, as opposed to what Mr. Trans Howard is introducing. I think your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and your great-great-great-grandchildren, Mr. Tyson, would pray for you if for generations if you put your weight behind this, so this periodic table would be adopted. Children can memorize this table, at least be feel more close and understanding with this design of periodic table than that ugly ass empty bowl of soup. Here's the Mr. Mandelio. Here's the thing, sir. Here's the thing, sir. And on his second point, while I was talking about your great-great-grandchildren praying for you, Mr. Tyson, if you put your weight behind the adaptation of this format of periodic table that Mr. Howard has introduced. While on the topic of praying, here's the thing, another thing that I got from him, that he's kind of like, let's recognize that vibration is the God. The God that we are looking for, the God that we are looking for is the vibration. You see where I'm going with this? This is his idea. And I think I think he's onto something. That it's not a God per se, but a whole life, whether alive or dead, is basically functioning based on vibrations. And here's the thing. You see, let's start with, if you want to have a successful church, the first thing you should do is either hire a band, musical band, or form a band from within members of the church. The first thing you should do if you want to have a church with more members. If you want to be inviting and you want to, bring more people in, introduce music. They will come not for your God, but for the vibration, the music, the humming, the chanting, the praying and the humming and the humming. They come for that. Now what you're selling them as God or Jesus or Moses or Allah, whatever you're selling, that's apparently is unimportant. They come for the vibrations. Look at it this way. Soviet Union and a lot of Middle Eastern countries as well, both for different reasons, based on different dogma, tried to ban music Soviet Union banned Western music, and Middle Eastern countries, all most of them have for many decades banned Western music. And imagine the teenage Soviet Union boy or girl who goes into his closet to listen to music that comes from either radio, or he's got a black market cassette. Happens all over the world with regards to music. What is it about music that that guy is willing to go in the closet, dark and damp, and smell like shit, go into that closet and listen to music? Any religion would kill for anybody who would be that devout in his practice of listening to the vibration. These A lot of these Muslim countries, they have uh, they have competitions, and that who can sing Quran better, because it's the vibration. They hope that the vibration will attract more people. The better you sing it, the bigger deck you got. It's the vibration. How many religious leaders can you name? I can name many religious leaders who would give their right arm if they had the following of, let's say, Rod Stewart, or the Beatles, or even Palmer, whatever one of them named Palmer. But it's like John Bolton, any guy, or Taylor Swift, or uh, Beyonce, the Queen. It's sort of like they're worshiping these idols because of the vibration. Eh, the poem is, if they can relate to the poem, that's just as well. But a lot of these poems are very, very opaque. So a lot of meanings can be drawn out of these poems. So the poem is really neither here nor there. And the more opaque the poem behind the music is, the more opaque it is, the more people will relate to it, because everybody can feel themselves in that position. So they make these poems very opaque, but people are not there for the poems. They're there for the vibration, for the beat. And any of these religious figures would give their right arm to have the following that any of these good musicians have, these people with good vibration. Idols. You literally call them, Eurostar and American Idol and Australian Idol and the British Idol. You really call them idols to worship, and 9 out of 10 times they're singers that become idols. Whether first place or ninth place, 9 out of 10 they're singers. One maybe something else. But the point is because they have been able to hit the right vibration. So there is no denying that it's the vibration that brings people in, attract people. Comedians have always been jesters. There was the jester of the king. It's a very well paid position that you could have. You would have a lot of latitude in offending the king and get away with it, because he created that vibration that comes from laughing, that feels good to people. The reason laughing feels so good, I believe it's the vibration. If the vibration doesn't matter whether vibration can be produced by music, voice, choir, singing, the whole church singing together, or one singer on stage singing and the whole crowd following, or not, the vibration, if it's created, attracts people. Now you want to name a religion after it, go right ahead. It's you got it in Colombia. I uh, You got these warehouses that right by the main street, there is a warehouse right by the main street. You're going down the main street in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, and right by the main street you see these warehouses. that is, it's a whole warehouse and it's just one entrance. It's a regular industrial warehouse in the middle of a residential neighborhood. One industrial warehouse, and it's a church. Small, got a small door, but when you go in, you just see it. It's just a warehouse with some stuff hanging. But the point is this, and it really doesn't matter what God in the front they're worshiping to. That humming, just people going for the humming. It's not the God, it's the humming. That sound that uninsulated warehouse created with the humming. I mean, these women, men, women. You would pass by it on Tuesday morning, not a very important religious holiday, and you would pass by it, and just the humming would sweep you away. Nothing in particular. They're chanting, and the chanting creates humming, and everybody feels better, and everybody has an orgasm and comes out of the warehouse and goes back to work or, you know, home. But it's the humming is that creates that orgasm. So, in my humble view, the point is this: that Mr. Trans Howard, that he's insistent that it's all about the vibrations. I mean, you can tell. I mean, you call them musicians. Many other languages on your planet call musicians, but by very interesting names. Many of them call your musicians as lovers. Lovers of whom? Who cares? They call musicians as lovers. That's the verb they use to introduce these people who create those vibrations. Very old tradition. And another language, mutrib means, happy. What happens, what brings you happiness? Good vibrations. Vibrations, literal vibrations I'm talking about. I'm not talking about something, spiritual. There may or may not be in that aspect of it as well. But as literal air molecule vibrating and hitting you, apparently gives you an orgasm, as human beings on earth and all other animals that are attracted to music. There are many videos on the internet that animals are attracted if the guy is sitting down and playing violin, and everybody comes in. It's the vibrations. Elephants communicate with each other by hitting their thing on the ground, foot on the ground, and creating very deep resonating sound in the ground. So my point is this: it's the vibration. I think his idea, Mr. Howard's idea, that it's the vibration that is the God, nothing else. It's the vibration that attracts creatures. It is it. I think he's got pretty good idea. I think here's the thing, Mr. Tyson. I think he should introduce Mr. Howard. Whether he's right in some calculation or wrong, let's not look for the fly in his ointment. Maybe the ointment is good and it's just got a fly in it. Maybe he should, you should co-host, try to co-host your startup with somebody like Mr. Howard, just as not as an equal. You don't want to consider as equal, no, just as an interested member of public, and he has been interested enough to go and do a lot of research on his own and come up with, at least be willing to introduce some ideas that many members of public has not heard of, whether they're all his original ideas or ideas that he's introducing. Somebody is introducing these ideas who has a voice, who cares. Listen to what he has to say. I think you should co-host Star Talk together. Obviously he's an interested member of public. He's not a dummy, and even if in certain instances he is a dummy, who else to sit beside him and show him so he can pull the flies out of his ointment instead of showing everybody the fly in his ointment, which is what you're doing, Mr. Tyson, right now. You should privately show the fly to him, take out the fly, and continue trying to use the ointment, see what that ointment that he's bringing, the idea of the periodic table is, I think it's revolutionary. At least for your kids' sake, they can memorize that periodic table much better. It's much more palatable than that empty bowl of soup. Fuck. That empty bowl of soup you call it periodic table. And it's like that because it was designed by chemists. Now you have this periodic table that is obviously designed by somebody who has some visual and emotional strength, who's not a chemist and has some some emotional aptitude, and he puts what you know as periodic table in a more palatable design, with a more palatable understanding behind the design, which is pointing at the fact that the whole thing is based on vibration. If you ask me, your God is vibration. There's nothing else, just vibration. The Chinese, I understand some Chinese Christians go to underground churches, and every time they hold a church in a different member's home, I think they go there for vibrations. They like the vibration. You see, when members of a sect or a church religion or this or that, they gather together. Usually they're preaching. Somebody preaches for a short period, and mostly they're just humming and humming and singing and humming and humming. They go there for that. After they hum for 2 hours of get together, they all have some kind of orgasm, and then they get up and they go home. It's not the God that they're worshiping that is important. It's the humming, it's the togetherness, it's the choir that they're attracted to, that they want to go and experience more and more and more. And that's the thing. You can have this. That's the funny thing about rap. If the people like to rap, it's the humming, it's the beat, boom boom boom, that makes people who make him and people who listen to them, they feel relaxed because of that vibration that they like. But so if you educate your black skins in North America, so these educated black skins who have more aptitude in creating those vibrations, they can put better words into those rap songs, more intelligent words. But since you haven't educated them, all they can think about, all they can talk about is their private parts. You see what I'm saying? It's a pussy and ass and some penis. That's basically from the start to the end of the song. And people like it. It's not the poem. They really don't want to hear the poem. And that's why, they don't mind the poem is jumbled up, because they really don't want it. They know it's a lot of shit in there. So they really don't want to know. They like the beat. What does that tell you? That tells you educate everybody, including the black skins, well educate, and then watch these folks come up with much better lyrics for their hit albums. Allow that goddamn periodic table that it looks like shit, which was designed by chemists. Allow that to go away and bring this beautiful design that Mr. Howard has introduced. And then, yeah, let's talk about producing some kind of a secular vibration get together in a secular places. People go and create these vibrations together, and say introduce more chapels. If you have to introduce more chapels, and say everybody's welcome to this chapel. Pray to your own God. Everybody has their own corner. Pray to your own God, but it's a fucking chapel. Everybody can come in, because they all come in, and that humming, they will never leave. They will love it. but you got to put all of them together. No church, mosque, or synagogue. Put them all together. Hey, here's a warehouse. You can go. It has good acoustics. You have acoustics. The most important aspects of the mosques in the Middle East is the acoustics. That's the most important aspect. They made these walls ceramic with very reflective surfaces, and in Europe they did that with glass. Glass gives you very smooth surface, just like porcelain, and they make them in different colors, designs, and blah blah blah. Both sides. In Europe with glass, and in the Middle East it was with ceramics. But the point of them was the acoustics that it provided when people started humming or singing. And even the funny thing is, even in the Muslim countries that they somehow say no music, no music, no singing and dancing. But even in these Muslim countries, they have musical processions 2, 3, 4 times a year. They have some kind of musical procession. Everybody wears black, but still it's a musical procession with rhythmic movement, a rhythmic moving musical procession. They just pass through the city and they sing and hit themselves. But the point is this, create the humming. Hit themselves, hitting yourself in the chest. Creates a kind of hum. The same way, the gorillas, do this and create the hum. They have some kind of similar tradition in some Middle Eastern countries. Other Middle Eastern countries, again, the humming that comes before before and after the preacher preaches, people go for the humming that comes after and before the preacher preaches. People start chanting, and then chant turns into a hum. It does make perfect sense. People enjoy the hum. People go for the vibration. Again, you see these. If you see an empty church and 5 people show up on Sunday morning, if you want to have 500 people showing up next year, same time, all you have to do is create some kind of a humming going. Best way to do that is, if you don't have the people, bring in the music. It's the music people like. It's the same thing with comedians. That laughing creates that vibration that people like. That's why now, these jesters of the king now has become jesters of the public. And because everybody loves them, because they can create that humming, that vibration that is so pleasant, that comes during laughter. The vibration happens during laughter, and the feeling better part happens after the laughter. That's the orgasmic part of it. The point is this: it's all vibration, and I believe Mr. Howard has a really good point. Really good point. I mean, if you can make everybody understand this, that is when you can put a church and a mosque and a synagogue and a temple in the same building, and get it over with. Have people break bread. It's the humming. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure out that they worship musicians and comedians. And if you can create that, I mean, we have a lot of other people who do a lot of other amusing things, but they're not so well known. They're not worshipped. Nobody goes in the closet to listen to, to read a book, you know, or do anything else. Most people go in their hiding place and want to listen to something they really like, a vibration that they really like. Music. The musicians are all worshipped. I mean, the guy has got a personality of a pig, but he's worshipped. Why? Because he can create that vibration within you, whether through speakers and its music, or its laughter and it's you creating that vibration for yourself. I think he's onto something, sir. I think you do a disservice by putting him down. I think you should co-host together. I think you should show the flies in his ointments to him and try to cooperate and make an ointment that, with no flies, and that is based on some, obviously he has the knack for it and you have the credentials. Why not? Salute. But that periodic table is beautiful. Please, if you don't do anything else, please put your weight behind that periodic table. Your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren are going to love you for it. That's a periodic table I can memorize, not that empty bowl of soup.